Donald Trump and the staggering fine. A judge in New York fining Trump $355 million in his civil fraud case for exaggerating the value of his properties, defrauding lenders.
In the aftermath of the Trump trial, a billionaire's hitting the brakes on New York City real estate faster than a New Yorker dodging a pigeon in Times Square. He's packing his bags, waving goodbye to the Big Apple, and setting his sights on the sun-soaked lands of Florida and Texas. This bombshell has the real estate world buzzing like a beehive in spring. Why the sudden change of scenery? Is he onto something big, or is he just trying to avoid more courtroom drama than an episode of Judge Judy? In this video, we'll dig into the details behind the billionaire's relocation. Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone, a renowned real estate investor and the founder of Cardone Capital, has made a groundbreaking decision that has left the real estate community in disbelief. In a recent interview, Cardone revealed that he will immediately discontinue all his real estate activities in New York City. This unexpected move has left many wondering what could have prompted such a drastic decision. The man himself said, "We thought this year was the opportunity to come into Chicago, California, and New York City. I've been waiting for 40 years now to invest in that marketplace. I was completely confident this was the year to come. And when that ruling happened, it was like pencils down. Don't touch it. Don't go there." Cardone's disappointment is evident as he expresses his frustration over the ruling in former President Trump's fraud trial. He had been eagerly waiting for this year to make his mark in the New York City real estate market, but the verdict abruptly halted his plans. So what exactly led Cardone to make this shocking decision? Let's dive deeper into the reasons behind his departure. According to Cardone, New York has risks that outweigh the opportunities, especially in terms of property value. The state has shown its politicization when it comes to doing business. We invest for 14,000 investors at Cardone Capital that depend on cash flow. And if I can't predict the cash flow because of some ruling, or because of the migrants, or because I can't evict people, New York City just keeps doing every single thing they can to sell real estate in Florida, not sell real estate in New York. Cardone's concerns about the politicization of New York and the challenges it poses for real estate investors are evident. He emphasizes that the livelihoods of thousands of investors depend on the ability to predict cash flow accurately. However, with the uncertainty surrounding rulings, migration patterns, and eviction policies, it becomes increasingly difficult to make sound investment decisions in the city. The ripple effects of the $355 million Trump ruling are not limited to Cardone's personal investments. The implications extend to pension funds, lenders, and public real estate investment trusts, creating additional financial concerns. This, in turn, could lead to a decline in property value and an increase in loan defaults, which could have a significant impact on regional banks. Cardone also said, "Loan proceeds are based on the value of the property. They're going to require me to actually underwrite my property on the cash flow, the income of the property, and what valuation I believe that property's worth. The broker also put a valuation on it, and then the bank is also going to use at least one other appraisal, maybe two, independent of me." Cardone sheds light on the complex underwriting process, which involves assessing the value of a property based on cash flow, income, and personal valuation. Multiple appraisals are typically involved, ensuring that the property's value is determined by various parties, including the buyer, brokers, and banks. Every seller is always going to push the price value up based on the future, not based on fraud. Cardone emphasizes that sellers always aim to maximize the price value of a property based on its future potential rather than any fraudulent activities. This highlights the importance of accurately assessing a property's value based on its cash flow and income potential. The reasons behind Grant Cardone's decision to discontinue working in New York City are undoubtedly thought-provoking. The challenges posed by the politicization of the state, the financial implications of the Trump ruling, and the complexities of the underwriting process have all played a role in shaping Cardone's perspective. Now let's turn our attention to another prominent figure in the industry, Kevin O'Leary, also known as Mr. Wonderful, from the hit show Shark Tank. O'Leary has echoed similar concerns about investing in New York City in the aftermath of the Trump trial. He said, "New York was already a loser state, like California is a loser state. There are many loser states because of policy, high taxes, and competitive regulation. I would never invest in New York now, and I'm not the only person saying that." O'Leary's blunt assessment of New York as a loser state reflects his concerns about the state's policies, high taxes, and burdensome regulations. He firmly believes that these factors make it an unfavorable environment for real estate investment. O'Leary's sentiments are shared by many others in the industry, highlighting the growing skepticism surrounding the New York market. Nobody's going to put big money in New York City anytime soon. We were going to put $1 billion in New York City this year. We were going to put $1 billion in Chicago and maybe another billion in Los Angeles, and we won't touch any of them now. Texas, Florida, Arizona. Go hard, go big, and go long. Cardone's words paint a grim picture of the future of real estate investment in New York City. His firm alone had plans to inject a staggering $1 billion into the city this year, along with significant investments in Chicago and Los Angeles. However, those plans have now been abandoned. Instead, Cardone urges investors to turn their attention to the promising markets of Texas, Florida, and Arizona. Cardone's departure from New York City is expected to have a significant impact on the local economy. The loss of potential investments worth billions of dollars will undoubtedly be felt. Moreover, his emphasis on the importance of cash flow and the future potential of properties highlights the challenges faced by sellers in a market that the recent events have shaken. The concerns raised by Kevin O'Leary and the potential ripple effects of Grant Cardone's departure from New York City are undeniably significant. The loss of billions of dollars in potential investments and the tale it presents should not be taken lightly. Let's look at the civil fraud verdict that led to this potential boycott. Former President Donald Trump was ordered to pay an eye-popping penalty of $355 million in a civil fraud verdict. This verdict, handed down by Judge Arthur Engoron, exposes a years-long conspiracy between Trump and top executives at his company, the Trump Organization, to deceive banks and insurers. Engoron's ruling cuts to the core of Trump's image as a wealthy and shrewd real estate mogul turned political force. The judge found Trump liable for falsifying business records, issuing false financial statements, and conspiring to commit insurance fraud and falsify business records. This revelation reveals a web of deceit that Trump and his associates wove to secure loans and make deals. Trump used the financial statements in question to deceive banks and insurers about the size of his wealth and the true value of his properties, including the iconic Trump Tower in Manhattan and his luxurious Mar-a-Lago club in Florida. These statements played a crucial role in Trump's success, enabling him to undertake ambitious projects that he otherwise wouldn't have been able to complete. But the judge's ruling exposes the truth behind these statements. Engoron determined that Trump's claims of wealth were phony and that the savings and windfall profits he obtained as a result were nothing more than ill-gotten gains. As a result, Trump and his co-defendants have been ordered to repay these gains to the state. The financial penalties imposed on Donald Trump as a result of this civil fraud verdict are nothing short of staggering. The initial penalty of $355 million is just the tip of the iceberg. In addition to this amount, Trump is required to pay interest, which could ultimately push his total debt to over $500 million. According to calculations by New York Attorney General Letitia James's office, Trump currently owes an additional $98.6 million in interest, bringing his total penalty to a mind-boggling $453.5 million. And the interest will continue to accrue until Trump pays off the full amount. But let's break down the components of Trump's debt. The judge ruled that Trump must pay $168 million plus interest in savings on loans he obtained using his inflated financial statements. These loans were used for various properties, including a golf resort near Miami, a Chicago hotel and condominium tower, a Washington, D.C. hotel, and a Manhattan office building. Trump's financial statements allowed him to secure lower interest rates, giving him a significant advantage in these deals. Additionally, Trump owes $126.8 million plus interest from the sale of the Trump International Hotel in Washington. Out of the $375 million sale proceeds, $170 million was used to pay off a loan on the property, while the rest went to benefit his children. This profit from the sale is now deemed as part of the ill-gotten gains that Trump must repay. Furthermore, Trump is on the hook for $60 million plus interest from selling the rights to manage a New York City golf course. The buyer, Bally's Corporation, stands to pay Trump an additional $115 million if they obtain a casino license for the property. The judge did not specify whether Trump would be required to give up this potential additional payment. The financial burden doesn't fall solely on Trump himself. His sons, Eric and Donald Jr., have also been ordered to pay a little over $4 million each, plus interest, for their shares of the Washington hotel sales. Alan Weisselberg, the former Trump Organization finance chief, has been ordered to pay $1 million, half of his $2 million severance package. With these staggering amounts, Trump's financial situation becomes increasingly precarious. The $355 million civil fraud verdict, coupled with his other legal debts, could have a significant impact on his ability to navigate his business ventures. Unsurprisingly, Donald Trump has not taken this civil fraud verdict lying down. In response to the ruling, he called it election inference and decried the penalty as a weaponization against a political opponent. Trump firmly believes that he is being penalized for his success and for having built what he considers a perfect perfect company with great cash, great buildings, and great everything. Trump has vowed to appeal the ruling, expressing confidence that the appellate division will ultimately correct what he claims are innumerable and catastrophic errors made by a trial court untethered to the law or reality. His lawyer, Christopher Kaiser, echoed this sentiment, stating that President Trump will, of course, appeal and remains confident in the ultimate correction of the alleged errors. Trump and his legal team have argued that outside accountants who helped prepare his financial statements should have flagged any discrepancies. They also claim that the documents came with disclaimers that shielded Trump from liability. According to them, Trump never instructed anyone to inflate the value of assets, and if there were any discrepancies, no one was harmed. Trump maintains that the banks made a lot of money and that there were no victims in this case. With the weight of this verdict and the potential $500 million debt hanging over his head, Trump's cash flow could be significantly constrained. This could limit his ability to finance a robust campaign, hire staff, and invest in advertising and outreach efforts. The financial strain may also affect his ability to rally support from donors and secure the necessary resources to mount a successful presidential campaign. Furthermore, the civil fraud verdict adds to the cloud of legal troubles surrounding Trump. Trump's financial woes. It all began in 2019 when Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, launched an investigation into Trump's financial statements. This investigation was prompted by revelations made by Trump's former personal lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen. Cohen had provided Congress with copies of documents that suggested Trump had a history of exaggerating the value of his assets. Armed with this information, James filed a lawsuit against Trump in 2022, utilizing a decades-old New York law that grants her broad powers to investigate allegations of persistent fraud in business dealings. The lawsuit accused Trump and his co-defendants of routinely inflating his financial statements to create the illusion of greater wealth and success. The trial itself was a spectacle. Trump took the stand as a witness, but his defiant and rambling testimony did little to bolster his credibility. Judge Engoron, who presided over the case, warned Trump that the trial was not a political rally and criticized his evasive and irrelevant responses. Key witnesses, such as Michael Cohen, provided crucial testimony that shed light on Trump's deceptive practices. Despite his past legal troubles, Cohen's testimony was found to be credible, as it was corroborated by other evidence presented during the trial. After weeks of intense courtroom drama, Judge Engoron finally delivered his verdict. While he stopped short of completely stripping Trump of his companies, he imposed strict limitations on the Trump Organization's ability to do business. The company was placed under the supervision of an independent monitor, and a compliance director was appointed to ensure adherence to the law. Trump's sons, Eric and Donald Trump Jr., were also banned from serving as directors or officers of any New York company for 2 years. Additionally, Trump himself was given a 3-year ban from involvement in the company and was prohibited, along with his companies, from obtaining loans from New York banks for 3 years. These penalties were seen as a significant blow to Trump's business empire and raised questions about his future endeavors. Now that we have explored the timeline and key events leading up to the civil fraud verdict, let's delve deeper into the shocking allegations and the specific actions that led to this momentous decision. One of the most shocking allegations centered around the overvaluation of Trump's properties. Trump and his co-defendants were accused of inflating the value of his Trump Tower penthouse in Manhattan for years. Astonishingly, the property was listed as 3 times its actual size, a staggering 10,996 square feet. This deliberate overvaluation aimed to create the illusion of grandeur and extravagance. But the deception did not stop there. Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida was also at the center of controversy. It was valued at over $612 million, based on the false assumption that the property could be developed for residential use. However, Trump had already signed an agreement surrendering the rights to develop it for anything other than a club. Despite this knowledge, Trump continued to value Mar-a-Lago as if it could be used as a single-family residence, further perpetuating the deception. Throughout the trial, it became evident that Trump was fully aware of these discrepancies. The judge, Engoron, highlighted Trump's knowledge of the true size of his properties and his intentional misrepresentation of their value. Engoron emphasized that Trump, a real estate mogul and self-identified expert, knowingly perpetuated these falsehoods. Furthermore, Engoron banned Trump and his companies from obtaining loans from banks registered in New York for 3 years. This ban is particularly significant, as New York is widely regarded as the financial capital of the world. The restriction on accessing loans from these institutions could have a substantial impact on the financial operations and growth potential of the Trump Organization. Another key figure in the case, Alan Weisselberg, the longtime CFO of the Trump Organization, faced his own set of penalties. Weisselberg, along with another former company executive, Jeffrey McConney, was barred from ever holding a corporate finance or leadership role in the state. These restrictions effectively limit their future involvement in high-level financial positions within New York-based companies. While the penalties imposed on Trump and his co-defendants are undoubtedly significant, it is important to note that Judge Engoron did not opt for the corporate death penalty initially considered. Instead, he chose to implement a system of oversight and restrictions aimed at curbing fraudulent practices within the Trump Organization. At this stage, Trump is unable to appeal the decision immediately. The clerk's office at Engoron's courthouse still needs to file the necessary paperwork to make the verdict official. Once this step is completed, Trump will have the opportunity to file an appeal. With New York's Appellate Division, a mid-level appeals court that sits just above Engoron's trial court in the state's judicial hierarchy, it is highly likely that Trump's legal team will request an immediate stay, which is a legal term for an order halting the enforcement of Engoron's decision while the appeals process plays out. Under state law, Trump can obtain an automatic stay if he puts up money, assets, or an appeal bond covering the amount he owes. The appeals process typically takes months, if not a year or more, to reach a resolution. If Trump is unsuccessful at the Appellate Division, he can then seek to have his case considered by the state's highest court, the Court of Appeals. The decision to pursue further appeals will depend on the advice of Trump's legal team and their assessment of the chances of success. Any appeal is likely to focus on several key aspects. Trump's lawyers have accused Judge Engoron of tangible and overwhelming bias, which they may argue as grounds for overturning the verdict. They may also raise objections to the legal mechanics involved in Letitia James's lawsuit, contending that the consumer protection statute she sued under is typically used to target businesses that rip off customers, not individuals. It is worth noting that Trump's legal team has already challenged Engoron's prior rulings multiple times, including during the trial itself. They have raised objections to a gag order and faced fines for violations after Trump made a disparaging and false social media post about a court staffer. These challenges indicate a pattern of resistance and a willingness to contest Engoron's decisions. Additionally, Trump's lawyers have long argued that the statute of limitations bars some of the allegations in the case. They contend that Engoron failed to comply with an appellate division ruling from last year, which called for narrowing the scope of the trial to exclude outdated allegations. As the appeal process unfolds, the focus will shift to the higher courts and the arguments put forth by Trump's legal team. The outcome of these appeals will determine the final resolution of this case and the potential impact on the staggering civil fraud verdict. With 4 criminal cases already in progress, the financial penalties and ongoing legal battles may further distract and divert his attention away from his political ambitions. In fact, let's look at these cases. One case that has garnered significant attention is the Georgia election interference case. This case revolves around allegations of a scheme to illegally overturn Donald Trump's narrow loss to Joe Biden in the 2020 presidential election. In August, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis charged Trump, along with 18 others, with participating in a wide-ranging scheme to undermine the election results in Georgia. Among the co-defendants are former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and Trump's attorney Rudy Giuliani. The charges brought against them are not to be taken lightly, as they are all charged under Georgia's Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, commonly known as RICO. This charge alone carries a penalty of 5 to 20 years in prison. But what exactly are the alleged acts that form the basis of these charges? The scheme outlined by the prosecution is nothing short of shocking. It includes Trump's infamous January 2021 phone call to Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, in which he urged him to find enough votes to overturn the election results. This call, which was recorded and later made public, became a focal point of the investigation. Additionally, the alleged scheme involved efforts to replace Georgia's Democratic presidential electors with ones who would vote for Trump. This attempt to manipulate the electoral process is a serious offense and strikes at the heart of democracy. The prosecution also claims that there was harassment of a Fulton County election worker and unauthorized copying of data and software from elections equipment. These acts, if proven, demonstrate a concerted effort to undermine the integrity of the election. As for the current status of the case, Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee has not yet set a trial date for Trump and the other defendants. The legal proceedings are still in progress, and both the prosecution and the defense are preparing their arguments. How this case will unfold and what evidence will be presented in court remain to be seen. In response to the charges, Trump has been forceful in his insistence that he did nothing wrong. He has repeatedly claimed that his January 2021 phone call with Secretary of State Raffensperger was perfect and that he was simply advocating for election integrity. Trump has not held back in his criticism of District Attorney Willis, accusing her her of being politically motivated and even going as far as calling her a racist. His attorney, Steve Sato, has been vocal in his defense of Trump, stating that Trump should never have been indicted and asserting his innocence of all charges. While some co-defendants have agreed to testify as part of plea deals reached with prosecutors, Trump and his legal team remain steadfast in their defense strategy. They believe that any truthful testimony will ultimately be beneficial to their case. It is clear that Trump and his lawyers are prepared to fight these charges and vigorously defend his innocence. Additionally, 5 of the defendants have attempted to move their charges to federal court, but a federal judge has rejected their attempts. However, all 5 have appealed the decision, and the outcome of these appeals could have significant implications for the case. Prosecutors have requested a trial for the remaining defendants to begin on August 5, 2024. However, Trump and some other defendants have objected to this proposed trial date. The court will need to consider these objections and make a decision on the trial date. The outcome of this decision will determine when the trial will take place and how the case will proceed. Another significant case in the realm of Trump investigations is the federal election interference case. This case centers around allegations that Donald Trump conspired to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election, leading up to the infamous January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol. Special counsel Jack Smith charged Trump with 4 counts related to the federal election interference. These charges include obstruction of an official proceeding, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, conspiracy to defraud the U.S., and conspiracy to prevent others from carrying out their constitutional rights. The most serious charges carry a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison, although the judge would determine the actual sentence. Prosecutors claim that Trump and his allies knowingly pushed election fraud, lies to pressure state officials to overturn Joe Biden's win. They worked to enlist slates of fake electors in battleground states, and even pressured Vice President Mike Pence to disrupt the ceremonial counting of electoral votes. The prosecution further alleges that Trump and his allies sought to exploit the pro-Trump mob's attack on the Capitol by trying to convince members of Congress to further delay the certification of Biden's victory. The current status of the case is that U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan had initially scheduled the trial to begin on March 4, 2024, in Washington's federal court. However, she put the case on hold to allow Trump to pursue his claim of presidential immunity in higher courts. The trial has been formally postponed, and no new date has been set at this time. Trump has consistently maintained his innocence and has characterized the case as an attempt to undermine his 2024 campaign. His legal team has argued that the case should be dismissed because Trump is immune from prosecution for actions taken in his official role as president. They have also asserted that Trump was within his First Amendment rights to challenge the outcome of the election and allege fraud. However, both Judge Chutkan and Washington's Federal Appeals Court have rejected Trump's claims of immunity. The legal battle surrounding Trump's claim of presidential immunity has set the stage for an unprecedented legal showdown with significant political ramifications. Trump filed an emergency appeal with the U.S. Supreme Court in February, seeking to keep the case on hold while he continues to fight his appeal. The Supreme Court's decision on whether to hear the case and how quickly it acts could determine whether Trump stands trial in this case before the November election. Another intriguing case is the classified documents case. This case revolves around allegations that Donald Trump illegally retained classified documents taken from the White House to Mar-a-Lago after he left office in January 2021. Special counsel Jack Smith charged Trump with a total of 40 felony counts related to the possession of classified documents and obstruction. These charges include willful retention of national defense information, conspiracy to obstruct justice, false statements and representations, and other counts. Each willful retention count carries a maximum sentence of 10 years. However, due to complicated sentencing guideline calculations, it is difficult to determine the exact sentence Trump could face if convicted. The alleged acts involved in this case are quite astonishing. Prosecutors claim that Trump not only illegally retained classified documents, but also obstructed government demands to give them back. Additionally, he was hit with additional charges in July, accusing him of conspiring to ask a staffer to delete surveillance video at Mar-a-Lago and holding on to a document described by prosecutors as a Pentagon plan of attack, which he allegedly showed to visitors at his golf club in New Jersey. The current status of the case is that Trump is set to stand trial on May 20, 2024 in Fort Pierce, Florida. However, his lawyers have requested a postponement of the trial date, and the judge has yet to decide on this request. The outcome of this decision will determine when the trial will take place and how the case will proceed. As this case unfolds, there are several key factors to watch. One potential wildcard is the jury pool in Fort Pierce. Given that the counties from which the jurors would be drawn went for Trump in the 2020 presidential election, this could potentially work in his favor. Another aspect to consider is the judge, Aileen Cannon, whom Trump appointed. While she initially allowed for an independent special master review of the classified documents seized from Mar-a-Lago, her subsequent rulings have not been in Trump's favor. The role of one of Trump's former lawyers, M. Evan Corcoran, who was forced to testify before a grand jury about Trump's alleged efforts to withhold the records, could also play a significant role in the trial. One of the most high-profile Trump investigations is the New York hush money case. This case centers around allegations that Donald Trump was involved in a scheme to bury allegations of extramarital affairs that arose during his first White House campaign in 2016. The indictment in the New York hush money case, brought by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, made Trump the first ex-president ever to face criminal charges. The charges in this case focus on allegations that Trump falsified internal records kept by his company, the Trump Organization, to hide the true nature of payments made to his then personal lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen. These payments were made to cover up extramarital affairs with two women, Stormy Daniels, a porn star, and Karen McDougal, a Playboy model, who claimed to have had sexual encounters with Trump years earlier. The case revolves around a scheme in which Cohen paid Daniels $130,000 and arranged for the publisher of the National Enquirer supermarket tabloid to pay McDougal $150,000 in a practice known as catch and kill. The Trump Organization then reimbursed Cohen and falsely logged the payments as legal expenses in company records. Over several months, Cohen received a total of $420,000 from the company. Trump is charged in New York with 34 counts of falsifying business records, a felony, punishable by up to 4 years in prison. To convict Trump, prosecutors must show that he not only falsified or caused business records to be entered falsely, which would be a misdemeanor, but that he did so to conceal another crime, making the charges felonies. The indictment does not specify the other crime that Trump allegedly intended to commit or conceal, but it may include violations of state and federal campaign finance laws and tax fraud. The current status of the case is that Judge Juan Manuel Merchan has scheduled Trump's trial to begin on March 25, 2024. However, there may be scheduling conflicts with Trump's other criminal cases, and his lawyers have requested a postponement of the trial date. The judge has yet to decide on this request. Trump has consistently denied any wrongdoing and has characterized the indictment as political persecution. He has pleaded not guilty to the charges. His lawyers argue that the payments made to Cohen were legitimate legal expenses and not part of any cover-up. They assert that Trump did not commit any crime and that they will vigorously fight what they perceive as a political prosecution in court. The outcome of this case will also have broader implications for campaign finance laws and the accountability of public figures. As the trial progresses, it will be crucial to monitor the developments and the arguments put forth by both the prosecution and the defense. If you enjoyed this video, click on the card showing on your screen right now for more videos.